Pull yourself together, Margaret. You've only just been hit by that train. So I don't know how I didn't hear this phrase for many years. Pull yourself together, Margaret. You've only just been hit by that train. And this phrase came to me when a friend of mine at church said this to me. And what I was trying to do was be a fully functional human being in the presence of debilitating migraines daily and a family crisis. And it wasn't happening. And I was so frustrated with myself. And it's such a beautiful little phrase because there are people who believe that, becoming after something's hurt you, something is a shock, something's just really knocked you down. There's these people that believe that becoming a fully functional human being after that, as quick as possible, is what resilience is. This is not resilience. In fact, is when it comes to the longevity of resilience, this is the opposite. And I've lived this way. I've lived this way. Not even, some of it's not even in the too distant past, but when you have, a family fall apart or something that is just, news that has just got you and you're like, you're just not yourself. It's okay to take the time. It's okay for you to wait for that to not have a grasp on you. The longevityness of being a resilient person doesn't mean that when someone dies or something, your family falls apart, you lose abilities, even a breakup, doesn't mean that you have to stand up and be fully functional right away and pretend it didn't happen and pretend that you don't feel something. Okay. Being able to actually process these things, take the time to stand back up and engage life appropriately. And for each of us, it's different. And for each of us, we have to figure that out because I know that I didn't come with a manual. That's a process that contributes to more of a longevity approach to resilience. So, fact is I recorded this video several days ago, and here I am sitting here considering the YouTube algorithm and how demanding it can be. And I had received news where I felt like I had gotten hit in the chest. I'm sitting there trying to record a YouTube video. And then I was like, going, just stop. Just stop. YouTube will be there. So when I had done, I've said it before, that when I had started having these migraines. I didn't know they were migraines. I had lost a sensory sense of self. So I didn't feel like I was even in my own body. I did an inventory of who I thought I was based on what I knew about myself. And I could add to that now. There's other things that I could add to that. But one of those core things was that I always stand back up. I love God with all of me. I always stand back up and I do anything for my family, you know. And, it's okay that only always standing back up be strategic, thought out, mindful, careful. Um, that that standing back up and whatever circle of responsibility that you have is the appropriate size for where you're at in the circumstances that you're in. So the appropriate size for me was always going to include my son. It's always going to include finding a way to take care of my son, the lives that are entrusted to me, whether they're four-legged, two-legged, and finding a way to do that. And that may be finding a way to simplify my life from the other responsibilities. Okay. So I simplified my life from church responsibilities, and I have less of those. And this last week, I simplified my life from my goals with YouTube. Okay. And then now I'm expanding back into that. And so standing back up isn't necessarily like, by gosh, I need to forget about this pain and pretend it didn't happen. Okay. It's not that. So when you assess the factors, if you have the processing ability. So for example, when my dad died in my arms, and my hands were on his pulses. He fell back in my arms. I laid him down. And, I had like 5, 10, 15 minutes of executive function a day for a while. Those are not the times to assess. It's not always easy to assess what my circle of responsibility is, if that's the case. But other things, like I had bad news from somebody that I deeply care about, and I could still assess my circles of responsibility. Okay. Okay, so attending to your own emotional needs to be one of your circles of responsibility. Yes, there are times where being fully functional immediately is important. Okay. So if I get my feelings hurt and my kid is about to run across the street in front of a car, my feelings be damned. I need to function. And the circumstances, if you simplify things and give yourself a space where you don't have to worry about things, then you need to be one of the circles of responsibilities is your own emotions. And I mean that in a very embodied way. So not just feeling like right now I'm feeling some anxiety. It's relatively typical when I'm videoing. So I feel that in my diaphragm. It's a chest-based, diaphragm-based feeling fear. It's not like the kind of fear where, you hit the brakes too fast, or somebody hit the brakes in front of you and you didn't see them and you hit the brakes real fast, where I tend to feel that in my legs and my ass and my lower back, my feet. This isn't that kind. It's more of a diaphragm, neck tightness, shoulder tightness, like through here. And then that observation without a desire to change it can often change it. So this is softening. Someday I'm going to get some interviews and work with people, so you're not just hearing it from me. Breath, softer. And so like each emotion will have these things. So like for me, anger will come with the tightness in the arms, um, tightness in the neck, jaw. Grief will be breathy. I'll feel a dropping sensation all down through the core, right down through my pelvis. Worry, will have the circular thoughts. I'll feel that in my chest usually. So it's different than, again, it's different than the kind of fear that, if I have a sudden threat response, like a car stopped in front of me really fast and I wasn't expecting it. So tending the emotions is part of the responsibilities of being able to eventually stand back up in the presence of something that's come at you, hypothetically come at you, and has really disrupted your sense of being and sense of okayness and function. Okay, so believe it or not, yes, I do have regrets. And two of them is not doing this. Like two of my major regrets is what I've done to myself by thinking I needed to stand up and be okay right now. One of those is I had a sudden personal loss, as in familiar, like as in my family. My core family had a sudden personal loss. And I chose to go to work the next day so that a person wouldn't have to work 10 days in a row. And I needed to stay home taking care of myself. I was even told to stay home taking care of myself. And I just couldn't stand the idea of people having to work that many days in a row, 10 days in a row, 12-hour shifts, or maybe it was 8. I think it was 12. No, it was 12. And by gosh, Susan has to do selfless service. I do not know what that was. I tried to reduce the noise in this house. I think it was ice falling off my house again. Anyway, so Susan has to do all this selfless service. Susan has to go into work. And not only was I not able to take care of myself, I wasn't really that functional, and it affected my relationships in the workplace in a way that some of those never really recovered because those people could not possibly understand what I was going through. The other one was planning my father's funeral after his death. After I had been his caregiver, I had been taking me and my ex-husband was taking care of him in a very unsustainable way. And then me and my brother, because my ex-husband had to go on a trip. And, I was still holding his hand and he wasn't cold yet before people were approaching me about the funeral. And I was expected to plan it. And I'm sorry, even if I give out tasks, that's still planning it. It was still the hardest part. And so that 10, 15 minutes a day of executive function I had, I wasn't taking care of myself. I was taking care of that. Now, somebody was looking after me a little bit, and my son, somebody was mostly looking after my son, which I needed and I'm grateful for. And me doing that and not taking care of myself in that way that I needed to, and just saying no. And I mean, and instead of being like a good soldier and forced, well, I can't do it, but if forced to source, this is what I'll do. I needed to just say no and let it not happen. And not doing that affected relationships in a negative way, and including my relationship with myself. So you're already in a situation where you need some healing, and that healing might just be processing emotions. It might be the it might, be what we talked about in the last video with hygge and taking care of yourself and finding comfort. It might be other things. But by not doing that now, you're going to wind up needing more healing later. Okay. So when it comes to others, because I hope you care about others too, it helps to insulate them from pushy people. So if somebody is in a crisis of some sort, somebody has been knocked down in some sort of way, hypothetically, or maybe literally, you need to insulate them from pushy people if they'll accept you watching out for them. Okay. This is we believe in free will here. I think it's good to encourage people to take that time to be with themselves. I've taken more noise. I've taken, I've studied a lot of trauma. And if I was to take years of studying trauma and being trauma informed and distill it down into one sentence, I'd say slow down. 2 words. Now, years of trauma, being trauma informed and trauma informed study can't be distilled into one sentence, but if I could, that would be the main sentence. And that is coming from a person with PTSD, as well as a person with a heck of a lot of training. The other thing is observe. Be interested in observing. Be way more interested in being observant than you are in forming conclusions. So someone making conclusions in response to me responding to an activating event 9 times out of 10 is not helpful. You can read a book on being trauma aware and go, oh, well, that's an adaptation or whatever it is you think it is, and you're going to get nowhere in supporting that person. Okay? Because even if you're right, there's probably something legitimate in front of them right now that needs to be addressed. So dropping the conclusions and slowing things down and observing and being present. These people that come in, I remember someone coming in when I was taking care of my dad, and they just chewed my butt about not asking for enough help. And, I was in shock. Like I was in a constant state of shock all the time at that point. And it didn't help. But if that person would have came in and just did the dishes And then on the other hand, I had a neighbor that came in, "Oh, what can I do for you?" I don't know. I don't know. And she's like, "Okay, well, load up your laundry and leave it by your back door every day. And every day I'm going to take your laundry and do your laundry and bring it back folded." And she did that through a good hunk of those last days of my father's life and a couple weeks after he passed away. And that was incredible. And so a lot of times the person that you might be supporting doesn't know what they need because they don't. It's another task to ask them sometimes is another task that you're giving them. So while you honor their free will, you might have the ability to not give them another task in directing you. Back to my notes I drop. Okay, well, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe. Please talk to me about the things that you do to take care of yourself when something's happened, and things that you do that takes care of other people when something happens. Please leave those in the comments. I really want to hear them. I think comments are really good for other people too. Um, make sure you share if this is good for you. And there'll be a link that if you want to support the channel, you can. Until next time.